Indonesia, a vast and diverse country of 200 million people that covers an area greater than the whole of Europe. Of all its 17,000 islands, Sulawesi is the most magical. Isolated by deep ocean trenches, it is home to more unique species than any place on Earth. But Sulawesi is under threat.
When you're sitting in Europe in your armchair watching a natural history programme and thinking, I'd like to make a difference, there is a way you can make a real difference. You can come out and join a project like this one and actually help scientists, because without the volunteers this whole project wouldn't run.
Volunteers from around the world are working alongside leading scientists to help conserve the rainforests of Sulawesi, diving on the pristine coral reefs surrounding the paradise island of Hoga. And they live with the Bajau sea gypsies of Sampella village. In this programme, in search of the lost valley of Kabiena Island, and checking out the bird life with Dave Kelly.
If you're worried about the bird being distressed, look at the eyes and look at the mouth.
6 a.m, Buton Island. 20 volunteer conservationists are setting off on a 2-week expedition to the unexplored island of Kabiena.
Please be careful with your steps. The boats are covered in lots of dew, a lot of water, and it's slippy on your shoes. So be careful as you walk on.
Nothing had been done at all on Kabiena, when there has been no biological survey of any wildlife group at all. So it's a slightly different approach. It's more mobile, it's a rapid biodiversity assessment rather than establishing bases and long-term scientific monitoring projects, which is what we've got in the forest in central Buton.
Taking part is volunteer Anna Marin Ashford.
It should be really interesting. Lots of undiscovered endemic species and things like that, so it's all kind of uncharted territory. It'd be nice to be a part of it and see what all the other scientists are doing.
So it's all aboard the KM Kenangan for a 6-hour boat ride to Kabiena. What wonders of nature will we stumble across on this sometimes forbidding island? The dry and dusty port of Donggala. Under a blistering sun, all the essentials are loaded onto the waiting trucks. Choking back the dust is the operations chief, Mr. Fix-It, Steve Oliver.
You have to make sure that, it's most important that the local people want you there and don't mind a group sort of coming in. So we actually planned to go to Kabiena 2 years ago, of which I went there first of all, and then we sent a reconnaissance team. We wanted to make sure that the local people accepted us and actually knew what we were doing. And we had an Indonesian scientist, of course, with us, which smoothed the path over.
After a dusty 2-hour ride, the volunteers finally arrive at the village of Enano. This will be their base throughout the expedition.
There's water and drinks upstairs and there's food inside. So if you want to grab that, and then we'll set out your accommodation after we've eaten.
And where's the Mandy?
Yeah, there's no problem with that. There's a little sign on the wall that explains how to get your laundry clean. Brilliant. So, yeah, just help yourselves.
Kabiena is a beautiful island. It's so different in many ways because it's mountainous and so forth. But the forest in large parts of Kabiena isn't as good as it is in Buton.
And time is running out for Kabiena's remaining forest. Most has been destroyed through slash and burn farming. For Operation Wallacea, it's a race against time to identify and save what little remains. It's an early start for resident bird expert Dave Kelly and his team of volunteers. They're going to the grasslands near to the operation's adoptive village of Enano.
It would be very nice if we could catch some of those pesky little quails, because they manage to elude us so frequently. The usefulness of the volunteers is in the manpower. Unfortunately, it's an area that requires a lot of training, and so in order to be highly proficient, you either need weeks or months or years of experience. So basically, the more time that a volunteer spends on a project, the more useful they become to that project. But to a certain extent, if you're going out bird watching, then the more pairs of eyes you have, the more likely you are to see what's about. I go ahead and just start opening these. I'll just lift the top shelf up.
Right.
And maybe that one, and then you can spread the rest of it.
Helping is 22-year-old Rosie Gloins.
Her mum and dad used to birdwatch, and I always used to sort of laugh at them because they always used to try and make me take binoculars with me when I went walking. I was like, no. And now I've got really interested in it. So I go birdwatching with them sometimes. Because I live in the New Forest, which has got some lovely birds.
Okay, so in order to get the quail into the nets, we need to give them a bit of encouragement. So if we walk out away from the vegetation edge there, in the middle of the field, we'll spread ourselves and then drive them back this way towards the nets, and hopefully flush some in. Oh, there they go. When we get close here, you've just got to walk all the way through, right up to almost touching the net, okay?
Home to 12% of the world's bird species, Indonesia is a birdwatcher's paradise.
The reason we're trapping birds here is trying to look at subspecific variation, because we have a range of islands here. A number of islands have isolated populations, and these isolated populations have diverged. So in the field you might see a bird that looks slightly different, but it's a little awkward sometimes to describe how it varies from the descriptions you have of birds in other places. If you have the bird in the hand, it's very much easier to describe the bird, and on certain occasions, if you think you've found something that is very new, you can write very detailed plumage descriptions. You can take samples of blood or feathers from the bird for DNA sampling.
Some of the birds are amazing when you catch them. I think they sort of know that they're beat. like when Dave holds them, he's very, very gentle with them, and they know that they can't get away. So some of them really relax. So I think they panic when they first go in the nets, but then they sort of calm down. And when they're in those bags as well, and it's all dark, they're pretty calm.
I came out with the operation 2 years ago, working on a trapping program. I've been interested in natural history ever since I was a child. The handling part of the birds, once you've got them out of the net, isn't that difficult. Getting them out of the net is much more difficult, and working on the identification of the species is much more difficult than actually handling them. Isn't that striking? Okay, so again, it's blue-breasted quail.
Each of the birds is weighed and measured.
Slightly brighter eye colours. This is the difficult bit because it's ready to spring up. Barrels. .2. How does that compare?
Also helping Dave is 22-year-old Rowena Milan.
They're really tiny. You never realise, because most of the time when you see quail they're just flying away from you, and with the wings out you don't really get an idea of how big they are, but they're just tiny little things. They're really cool.
It's incredible. I didn't even know half of these species existed.
Put them down so their feet are resting gently on the ground, and then you can slowly release the grip, and they'll probably disappear quite rapidly.
Okay.
Because we don't have the extra licenses that are required to put rings on the birds to identify them, we have to find another way of identifying the birds that we've captured. And so what we do is we snip a little bit of the tail feather off and snip it in such a way that we know that it's been done artificially. if we were to catch the bird again, and we've actually done that this morning, then all you do is look at the feathers in the area that you've cut, and you can tell whether or not it's a new bird.
Stop it.
A little bit more feisty this one, isn't it?
Yeah, holding the birds, like, when you first do it, it's quite scary because they're so delicate and you think that you could damage them, but once you get to know what you're doing, it's really great feeling. And especially letting them go, it's really nice.
Sadly, not all Indonesia's birds are quite so lucky. The global wildlife trade is worth up to $8 billion a year. The tens of thousands of exotic birds smuggled out of Indonesia every year account for a slice of that market. You'd expect to see birds like these in the wild in Southeast Asia, but you'd be sadly disappointed. You're more likely to see these beautiful creatures in a backstreet market in Jakarta or Singapore than in their native jungle habitat.
So here we have a new bird, a new species for the morning. An active one. And back some bird.
Lovely.
I can hold it higher so you can get iridescence from the sun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If you're worried about the bird being distressed, look at the eyes and look at the mouth. And the mouth is closed and the eyes are just blinking normally, so it's fine.
Okay.
Just roll the hand a little bit further around it. That's good. Okay.
Coming up in part 2,
Rock.
a journey into the unknown with our mountain explorers.
Oh, there's one. Can you see him up there? Can you see him perch hunting?
Will they be able to handle the pace? Find out after the break. 20 volunteer conservationists have recently arrived on the mountainous and unexplored Indonesian island of Kabiena. They're here to help discover areas of forest in need of protection. In Operation Wallacea's adoptive village of Enano, they're preparing for a 3-day trek up the island's highest peak. Making sure that the volunteers can handle the pace is survival expert Catherine Lyons.
It's hot and it's exposed and you're carrying a lot of weight. In jungle training, and this is why we do jungle training, in jungle training they walk for an hour and a half at a time. This will be more like 2.5 hours, which is, you know, it's good. Food, lunchtime. They've all been working with different teams, like doing bats and birds and whatever, so they know what's expected. And yeah, it's a good group, so just have good fun.
Stocking up on the carbohydrates is 22-year-old Rosie Gloins.
None of us are used to sort of really heavy exercise in this heat, even though we've done jungle acclimatisation, which has been great. I think, yeah, we are underestimating it a bit, but I think that's just as well, because then we'll keep positive all the way up and be good. Drink plenty of water and yeah, it should be fine.
Also taking part is the operation's resident reptile expert, Dr. Graham Gillespie.
This is the first time there's been any serious wildlife survey work done here, and as far as I know there's been no herbological work done here before. So we're coming here as a first cut to see what's here, see what species are present, see how it differs from the other islands in the area, such as Bhutan and indeed the mainland, to see if there's anything unusual here.
The Sambapalulu mountain is a tough climb, especially with a 20-kilo pack on your back. At 1,800 metres, it's higher than Ben Nevis, the tallest mountain in Britain.
We've come to the top where the antenna is, and then we're going to just go down a little bit of a ridge, down into the gully and up across into the next saddle over there, and we'll be camping in amongst the trees. This bit's a bit more tricky, a bit of ankle twisting terrain, so we want to take it quite easy. No, probably won't stop, we'll just walk very slowly. because it's quite difficult to stop on it because you lose your balance quite easily. I think we just want to carry on walking just because it's quite tricky.
It's getting late. Time to set up camp for the night. Dr. Gillespie reveals his secret stash of instant coffee.
Oh, Graham, I love you. I'll be your best friend forever if you give me some.
In your bag, the chocolate is yours, but all the other food is for sharing with everybody. Because we didn't.
Okay.
Only 9 people carried food, but there's more than 9 people here. So, cool. Who wants a biscuit?
It's nice over there.
Oh yeah, man, fat post. Well, it's a little bit rocky, but
You're gonna have a comfy one.
It's not. It's
she's found a
flattish.
comfy space, but I doubt anyone else can sleep there.
As darkness falls, bat expert Dr. Tigger Kingston tunes into the local bat
I
frequency.
think they're pregnant because their guts are out like this, you know, and the next day you get them out of the bag and the bag's full of poos and your bat's all skinny again. So that's at about 60 kilohertz, which should be our friend Rhinolophus arcuatus or ruffinus, which anyone who comes to the caves will see. This is that same bat's flying around here.
All bats emit a high-pitched signal, which we wouldn't be able to hear without Tigger's gizmo.
So I don't know if they're living in this little remnant here or if they're commuting in from a cave roost, which is also possible. Oh, there's one. Can you see him up there? Can you see him perch hunting?
It's day 2 of the trek up Mount Samba Palulu.
It wasn't too cold, and I put my poncho over my sleeping bag so I didn't get any wetter. And the stars were lovely, and we all lay and watched shooting stars for a bit.
It's quite nice to be on the ground and surrounded by grass because it is cosy. But then again, hammocks can be really cosy too because you're above the ground and you're all contained and there's no problem.
Time to tackle the last and trickiest leg of the climb. Almost immediately they hit a thick clump of dense jungle covered in razor-sharp rattan leaves.
Everyone likes to climb a mountain. This is a central sort of point of the island, and when you get to the top you can see all around. So from a survey point of view, it's just nice to be able to climb it and just see where you are from the highest point.
Just keep going steady, not to rush, and watch my balance, make sure I don't fall over.
Oh God, this is so tough.
Everyone's interested in how the forest structure will change as we go higher. You know, what species are up there. I mean, there's pitcher plants and different types of mosses and stuff like that, and orchids, and that's very interesting to people. Who just come from England. You see orchids in Marks and Spencer's, you don't see them on a mountain. Oh, rock. It's a bit loose around here.
"24 hours since they set off from the village, they reached the top.
Hello Dave, and just to say we've reached the top of the mountain and we're just in a radio check from the very top. If you look carefully, maybe you can see us. If you go on the football pitch, you should be able to see us because we're right at the top, over.
It's class to be at the top, really enjoying the view. It's beautiful up here. And we can see, the good thing about it is we can see the village Anano where we started. Yeah, the view is beautiful, and to see all the different types of forest, like the undisturbed forest over here, and the slightly more farmed land this side. But it's all beautiful. Yeah, it's good.
They came in search of undisturbed forest in need of protection, but no one expected this. Surrounded on all sides by large mountain ridges, this is the Lost Valley of Cabiena. It's a treasure trove of natural beauty that has somehow survived the effects of man's destructive influence.
Looking at some of that sort of pristine forest was incredible, looking over that valley.
First of all, this is most likely the last untouched, undisturbed area of forest on the island. So if you want to conserve anything on Cabiena Island, this is the place to do it. You're looking at an entire catchment surrounded by high mountain peaks, which is, appears to be fairly intact and undisturbed. It's a desirable area because it's remote from human habitation, so it's going to be relatively easy to deal with those kinds of conflicts that arise from encroachment, from human settlement. In contrast, other areas of forest which may be smaller and surrounded by human habitation, there's not much chance of saving those. Eventually they will go because people will encroach into them and clear them for timber and for cropping, whereas here there's a good chance that won't happen because it's just too difficult for people to get into. So it's a nice unit for conservation purposes.
We thought the forest was disappearing very rapidly indeed, which it does appear to be, and if we didn't go soon, then it was going to be an academic problem. So we mounted this expedition, quite intensive one this year, and the results have been staggering. I mean, they are so exciting from a biological perspective that I fail to believe that we will not be able to convince the local authorities that they should set up a reserve in this beautiful mountain valley.
And so a new frontier opens up in Operation Wallacea's struggle to preserve the wilds of Sulawesi. And down at the school in Anano village, a special poster arrives to help teach the children about jungle wildlife. A small but important step on the road towards saving the Lost Valley of Cabiena for future generations. Join the volunteer conservationists of Operation Wallacea again next time as they continue their mission of saving paradise.